Okay, build a commander deck under $50. Shouldn't be too hard.
3 days later.
Why is Ancestral Mask $5? It's perfect for the deck! Greetings and salutations, Planeswalkers of the Multiverse, and happy holidays! 'Tis the gift-giving season here on the plane of Earth, and one of my playgroups decided to revisit their tradition of doing a Secret Santa Commander deck exchange.
Secret Santa? Really, Bones?
Yeah. What can I say? The Goys really cornered the market on alliterative, denominational-themed gift-giving events. You don't hear anybody clamoring for the hidden Hanukkah halibut. Or some other nonsense. All joking aside, the rules are very simple. Pick a name out of a hat, build that person a commander deck under $50, then meet up to exchange decks and test them out. To make sure you don't get a deck that you either already have or would absolutely hate playing, we post a little bio about what we like playing, decks we have, so on and so forth. We do this because we don't see each other super often, and usually when we meet up, most of us have built a new deck or two. And I don't know about you, but I would hate to show up to an event with a deck made for someone around a commander that they have already personally built. Fortunately for me, my recipient only had this for his request. I have way too many decks with red and white. I would prefer decks with black, green, or blue, any combo. Little did he know, those colors are my speciality. I actually ended up building a deck that I personally wanted to make for myself, Tatsunari Toad Rider. Sultai Aristocrat enchantments, what's not to love, and fits the recipient's request. So without further ado, let's hop into the selection of cards I made for this deck. As previously stated, this is going to be an Aristocrat enchantment build, all around draining our opponents with our buddy Kemi. And we want to trigger that ability as often as possible, so we have enchantments for every occasion. Starting with ramp, we have Wild Growth, Abundant Growth, Fertile Ground, Overgrowth, Grafted Growth, and New Horizons. Wow, that's a lot of growth. All enchant our lands to produce more mana. Rampant Growth and Cultivate, not enchantments, but very dependable and very cheap. Great for making sure there's enough ramp in the deck while being under budget. Herald of the Pantheon reduces all of our enchantments by 1 and nets us a little bit of life. It's like a medallion with legs for enchantments. And that's also true for the price. It came in at a whopping $2. Ugh. That made it one of the most expensive cards for the deck. Now, while not true ramp, Nessian Wanderer's Constellation ability does allow us to reliably hit our land drops, so long as we can keep playing our enchantments on curve as well. And what commander deck isn't complete without Soul Ring? Had to make room in the budget for that, especially when it can get our commander out on turn 2. Binding of the Old Gods pulls triple duty. First, it's an enchantment. Second, it's removal. Third, it's ramp. Guess we'll use that as a segue into the removal section. We're using all 3 Sultai colored seals: Seal of Doom, Seal of Removal, and Seal of Primordium. These great Rattlesnake cards certainly earn my seal of approval. Frogify and Kenrith's Transformation are enchantments that turn threatening creatures into a less threatening 1/1 frog or 3/3 elk. The elk also draws us a card. Imprisoned in the Moon is just the grown-up version, not only hitting creatures but also lands and planeswalkers, turning them into a moon. And apparently in game mechanics, the moon is just a land. Just one colorless land. Doomwake Giant shrinks all of our opponent's creatures whenever we play an enchantment, so if we can play multiple, say goodbye to all of your opponent's creatures. Speaking of all creatures, Extinguish All Hope destroys all non-enchantment creatures, which is relevant because we have a few enchantment creatures in the deck. Mortality Spear and Sultai Charm are our non-enchantment removal because we want some more instant speed interaction, plus Mortality Spear is most likely going to get that cost reduction thanks to Kemi. And Sultai Charm is just super versatile, destroying creatures, artifacts, enchantments, or just letting us draw some cards. But we don't have to rely on just Sultai Charm to draw some cards. There are plenty of enchantments that love drawing us cards. Sadly, most of them don't fit in our budget, but there were 2 that did. Enchantress's Presence and Eidolon of Blossoms both draw us a card whenever we cast an enchantment or one enters the battlefield under our control. The Eidolon did almost get cut. It was the most expensive card in the deck. a whole $3. Another pricey inclusion was Season of Growth, but it was too perfect not to include. Scrying whenever we cast a creature, and drawing us a card whenever we target one of our creatures with one of our enchantment spells. Greed lets us turn all that life we've been gaining into more cards. And Snake Umbra and Reconnaissance Mission both draw us cards whenever either the enchanted creature or any creature deal combat damage to one of our opponents. Hateful Eidolon serves as a backup just in case any of our enchanted creatures die, drawing us a card for each aura that was enchanted to it. And Thirst for Meaning rounds us out, a quick draw 3 4/3, usually with just the downside of having to discard an enchantment. Now for some more utility and payoff cards to play with our enchantments, just in case our commander gets killed one too many times. Grim Guardian's Constellation effect does a very good Chemi impersonation. Sure, it doesn't gain us any life, but if they're both on the battlefield, that doubles the life loss of our opponents. Agent of Erebos exiles any graveyard whenever an enchantment comes into play under our control. Very helpful for keeping all of those graveyard-based decks under control. Side note, both of these creatures are enchantment creatures, so they'll trigger any card that cares about an enchantment entering the battlefield under our control. Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief will double up our enchantments so long as we target a different creature other than herself. And those extra enchantments not only will give us extra value, but will trigger whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield effects. While it's not Ancestral Mask, Helm of the Gods is still a great replacement, sure to give whatever creature it's equipped to a massive power boost for only 1 mana to equip. Eutropa Twice Favored is a great utility creature in this deck, slowly buffing up your creatures and giving them evasion to punch through that extra bit of damage. Destiny Spinner is another enchantment creature that protects your enchantments and creatures from being countered, but also serves as a possible win condition in case the board stalls out, able to turn your lands into giant XX creatures. But just in case any of your enchantments or creatures get removed, Season of Renewal can return both a creature and enchantment to your hand, and Crystal Chimes returns all your enchantments back to your hand. A few other cards that help aid in the protect your creatures from bad stuff category. Kaya's Ghost Form, a cheap enchantment that protects your creatures, or planeswalkers if you ever upgrade this deck, from being sent to the graveyard or exile. Eel Umbra is a great combat trick enchantment thanks to having Flash, giving your creatures not only a power boost, but also totem armor, which protects it from being destroyed the next time it would, be destroyed. And Shielding Plaques, granting hexproof to whatever creature it's enchanted to, and giving us a card for our troubles. Now for some enchantments that we can replay over and over again to accrue all that value. Shimmering Wings and Whipsilk are 1-mana enchantments that either grant flying or reach, but that's not the important part. The important part is that you can return these enchantments back to your hand for 1 mana, allowing you to play them over and over again, re-triggering your commander, constellation, or any other enchantment-focused effects. Fortitude and Rancor are 2 enchantments that will return themselves to your hand if they're ever destroyed while on the battlefield. Fortitude protects a creature with regeneration at the cost of a forest. Rancor not only gives a power boost, but also trampled, making any creature it's enchanted to much more dangerous. I don't really have a good spot to talk about Aqueous Form, so I'm just going to talk about it here after Rancor. Just gives your creature unblockable and a scry whenever it attacks. Guaranteed damage attached to a 1-mana enchantment. Perfect for this deck. Another perfect enchantment for this deck is the enchantment creature Shimmerwing Chimera, with the drawback of bouncing an enchantment we control back to our hand at the beginning of our upkeep. This downside is an upside in our deck, re-triggering all of our enchantment-focused abilities and our commander. Speaking of triggering our commander, what's better than 1 Chemi? Multiple Chemis. Endless Evil is an enchantment that will create a copy of whatever creature it's enchanted to, except that it's a 1/1 at the beginning of our upkeep. Now I already hear you typing in the comments. Bones, Chemi's a legendary creature. The tokens are just gonna die due to the legend rule, right? That's where this next suite of cards comes into play. That being mutate cards. If you mutate a creature over Chemi, it stops being named Chemi. It doesn't have the legendary creature type, and therefore doesn't follow the legend rule, and you can have multiple Chemis. I'm just going to quickly list off all the mutate creatures we have in this deck. If there's any in particular that you want to take a look at, just pause the video and give them a read. Dreamtail Heron, Pouncing Shore Shark, Sea Dasher Octopus, Souvenir Snatcher, Cavern Whisperer, Chittering Harvester, Dirgebat, Mind Leecher, Gem Razor,
All the wang doodles and hornswogglers and snozwangers and rotten vermicious knids.
Glowstone Recluse, Migratory Greathorn, Boneyard Lurker, Brokos Apex of Forever, Otrimi the Ever Playful, and Trumpeting Gnar. All do something useful when they mutate or when they deal combat damage, But the most important thing is they turn our chemies into not chemies, allowing us to have more frog friends, or elemental bird frog friends, or nightmare beast frog friends. You get the picture. And with the remaining budget, I did upgrade the mana base a little bit. Not sure you could get away with playing nothing but basics in a 3-color deck, and I just wanted to make sure that this deck played smoothly. So we picked up a Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Opulent Palace, Sunken Hollow, Dimir Aqueduct, Tainted Isle, Golgari Rot Farm, Witherbloom Campus, Yavimaya Coast, Simic Growth Chamber, Quandrix Campus, Litjara Mirror Lake, Bujaku Bog, and Myriad Landscape. The remaining 22 cards are just basics. And that's my build for a $50 Tatsunari Toad Rider deck. As usual, a link to the deck list is in the ether down below. So what'd you think? Did I do well with a $50 budget? What cards would you have added? Keep in mind, we have a budget. Well, fingers crossed he likes the deck. Now I'm curious to see who got me and what deck they made. Only time will tell. So until then, I've been Bones with Children of Alara, and I am wishing you and all your loved ones a very happy holiday. Stay safe, stay warm, and I will see you at the beginning of your end step.